hear sometimes from parents in that like the program asks a lot of parents, and so like I want to hear y'all's opinions on that from your perspective and your experience. But I kind of want to set the table a little bit and have a little bit of real talk around that question. I think it's like normal and human for us to kind of have some of those thoughts or some of those concerns. I also would be careful about like that train of thought of like that it's asking a lot of me or it's requiring a lot of me. And and to kind of put a different perspective or spin on that, like if chances are if you're here, then you're here for good reason, and there's serious, potentially life-threatening, self-destructive behavior going on with your kid, with your family, that you're going to be dealing with for years, most likely, like long after, and I'll let these guys speak to that because they're the experts, but long after your kid is not in Cornerstone anymore, like their issues are not just going to disappear or go away, and we are certainly, nor is any program like a cure or a fix. So we gotta have some real talk and be honest that we're gonna be dealing with this for years and years and years in some form or fashion. And your time in a program like Cornerstone is kind of like boot camp. Like you want to build up your skills while you're here, and the way to build up our skills is through like the frequency. The way to develop any healthy habit is through the frequency of the meetings that we go to, or the time that I spend with my sponsor, or the time I spend in the literature, or getting educated, or so on and so forth. And if your child was at MD Anderson or had like brain cancer, you wouldn't be complaining. You wouldn't be complaining about the travel or about the distance or what it required or whatever. You would just be in the mode of like, well, I'm trying to save my kid's life. Well, guess what? If your kid is in this program or in one similar to it, then they've got a form of cancer, and you are in a fight for their lives. So I want to hear what you guys think about that, but I just kind of wanted to set the tone as far as that question goes.
Want Scott to go first?
Sure, I don't care. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, I think sure there is a lot of time required of parents. Part of the secret sauce of the Cornerstone program is that it is a parent-driven recovery program. I don't quite know how kids have made it without much parent involvement, for sure. But I don't know how our kids would have made it without our being involved. And I don't mean being involved in every detail of their lives. I mean being involved with my own program here at Cornerstone. The phrase, you may not have, you didn't cause the condition, you can't control the condition, and you can't cure the condition, but you probably, whether you know it or not, contributed a little bit to the condition. And I'll talk to you, you did. It's just, you did.
There you go.
You did. And so that's why you're here. What is it that I can do for myself that can help my family, that can help me, maybe in non-recovery terms, help me set a good example, for my family so that we can have a healthy home. It requires a lot because what you're dealing with requires a lot of effort. I'll leave it at that.
Cool, great. You want to speak to that from your experience of being the kid?
Well, I definitely don't know where I'd be had my parents not done their work in the program. My parents are why we got here. I was definitely not the driving force. No. And I, as a newcomer, definitely had similar thoughts of like, why is this so hard? Why does this take so much work? Why can't I just be fixed already? And then I started thinking about, well, whenever I've been digging myself a hole for my whole life and establishing these like neural pathways in my head that all lead to self-destructive behaviors, and that's what I have been practicing all my life, and that hole gets deeper and deeper, and those neural pathways get like more set in my head. Like, yeah, it's gonna take a lot of work to like climb out of that hole and to establish new neural pathways, because that's what I've been practicing my whole life, and that takes a lot of time and work. And my parents' sickness like isn't the same as mine, but they dug different holes, and they had like their own holes to learn how to climb out of. And I also like what Joe said, getting here, it's like I'm not just doing this just because I have nothing else to do. Like, this is like I'm trying to save my life, and I think that's like worth the work that it takes. I mean, it doesn't take that much to be mediocre, but I want to be more than mediocre, and I think my parents want to be more than mediocre, and so living a life that's not like that takes more than just the bare minimum.
So I remember getting the packet, like when I first started, and having all the requirements, and I was like, what the hell? This is like crazy. Like, who is this person telling me that I'm gonna completely like go to 3 meetings, do all this and that? And at the time, I had this amazing planner, like this family planner that I had, and it was perfect. I had it for years. It was color coded. It had like things for work, each of my kids, my husband's, my extended family. Like, it had grocery lists. It had all this and that. And it took me like 5 months for Joe to help me throw it away. Essentially, I remember letting it go, and it was actually a monumental part of my recovery, to kind of let that go. And what I learned from all of that was that when I looked at the planner, I realized that my priorities were not what I really wanted. Some of us get caught up in the rat race at work. Some of us get caught up in, the craziness of family on a day-to-day basis. And my calendar was filled with things that I thought were important to make my life successful, I guess externally to everybody else, but really not the kind of life that I wanted to live. And Cornerstone taught me that. So when I started looking at my calendar and filtering out the things that were really not a priority, and then putting it into there, things that became important to me, like climbers was super important to me. Meeting with my sponsors were always on my calendar. Hosting all the kids, going to the family meetings, like my family sessions were always a priority. All of those things. And then yoga, and then bike riding, all of that. I finally figured out that I was living a life that looked really good, but that didn't really bring me joy, happiness, and a full family of what I wanted my family to look like. So when they ask you to do these things, it's not really because they just want you to do. There's actually a purpose behind it, and that purpose really helped me define the kind of life that I wanted to live.
This is a great question. I think if if we're still like negotiating, like how to balance Cornerstone with everything else then we're still in denial. Like we're really in denial about what's going on here. And like, it took me a day to be completely bought in. And it's because my son was spiraling the very first night. And after like 2 hours of trying to negotiate with him, my wife finally, like I was doing the negotiating, my wife said, I'm texting Joe. Joe said, don't worry, I'm gonna send some dudes over. And like 15 minutes later, 3 teenagers that I'd never met before rang the doorbell, walked in, went into my son's bedroom, and 5 minutes later, he left with them. all right, Mom, going to an event. I'm like, all right, I don't know what the hell this is about, but I want that. You know, and like, so like I hated missing meetings. Like, I hated it. I couldn't wait for climbers. Like, it was the highlight of my friggin' week for 2.5 years. I loved it. And like, it taught me how to really be vulnerable and how to like understand what it means to be connected. And you know, so I just think like you're missing out if you're not all in. Like, and everyone goes through their own journey, like what that means for them. But it's just willing to be willing. But like, you know, I learned to experience real joy for the first time in my life, no matter what was going on in my life. And it's not about, for me, it didn't become a commitment. It was like, I loved every part of it. So there you go.